Every day, ordinary people make extraordinary choices as they negotiate unpredictable pathways to the peak of their expectations without ever taking the time to enjoy the view. Join me, Tish Tindall, at this panoramic viewpoint of astonishing personal and professional progress as we find out why my next guest is living the fabulous life. Paul Dwyer, how lovely to see you.
How lovely it is to be here, all the way
How are
from
you?
Istanbul. I'm very well, thank you.
You're in Istanbul this evening.
Yeah, well, actually, that's where I'm living. So, and have been for the past, oh goodness me, it's giving my age away now. 32 years.
So you moved there just as a small boy, then?
I was 2 years old, exactly, Tish.
Oh, you look fabulous.
Yeah, I look good for 32, don't I? It's not bad. Yeah, I wish.
So Istanbul, what's the weather like over there at the moment then?
Right now, it's quite cold. It's very dark. And the weather has taken a slight turn. Actually, last week was very nice. It was quite sunny. We were having 24, 25 degrees. And then it suddenly went cold and rainy. So so we're slowly breaking into the winter. The sonbahar, as we call it here in Turkey, the autumn. The autumn is upon us, and it's getting a bit colder now. But I mean, you can still actually sit outside, as I am now. It's I can sit out like this. It's not too cold just now, but in a week or so it'll start dropping. It's nice. It's nice to be here.
And do you miss the UK weather?
Oh, yes. No, actually, when I was studying in Manchester with Andy, in Manchester in the 80s, we always used to say the great thing about the summer in Manchester is that the rain's a wee bit warmer. That was the good thing about that. At least the rain was slightly warmer. But no, I don't know. I mean, I miss the family and the people more than the weather. I don't think about the weather. I have plenty of that here. So.
And tell me, Paul, how did it all start? You've had such an incredible career, an international performing career, and producing a television star. Where did it start? Did you want to be a musician first of all?
Well, yeah. I mean, I basically grew up just outside of Edinburgh in a small town, then very small town called Livingston, Newtown. All my family's still there just now. And I started to study classical guitar. I then went to the Royal Northern College of Music in Manchester in '82. That's where I met my soulmate partner, Andy Claiborne. He was also studying classical guitar. And we just started, we hit off right away. We were like, the spark hit immediately, and we started to write our own songs. We were very influenced, of course, by the likes of Simon and Garfunkel and the Beatles, and basically two guitars, Everly Brothers. So we were singing all these kinds of songs as well as starting to write our own. Well, of course, when I went there initially, I wanted to be a classical guitarist. I had studied. The reason why I chose that college was because of the possibility of having master classes with the infamous and astounding John Williams, guitarist. So we had the chance, the opportunity to do that. And so with Andy, we basically, as I say, we hit it off from day one, and we ended up, we lived in a student's apartment together, the halls of residence, we were neighbors. And then our career grew from there, constantly writing our own material. In fact, the first demos we recorded were in the bathroom of the halls of residence, because we had a good acoustic there. And we recorded onto a little cassette, by the way. It wasn't MP3s and things like that then. And then, then we began to play the club scene with Andy. We did all those Sunderland docks and Leith docks, and just about every pub and joint and union clubs that you could possibly think about. And then we also we had some opportunities to play abroad. And eventually in '88, we were offered the position to play in the Hilton in Istanbul. prior to that, we'd been in the Hilton in Nicosia, in Cyprus. We'd been to Abu Dhabi in different places. So it was just another extension of playing in the hotels. And that brought us to Istanbul in '88. So,
And so before you met Andy Claiborne, who was your gigging partner, your music partner,
mhm.
and your dear friend, before you met Andy, was it always classical guitar that you were interested in, or was there, as you were growing up in Livingston, was there something else to do with music that you were interested in? Is it do you have more than one instrument that you play?
No, actually, I started off when I was 12 years old. Mum and Dad bought me an old Wilson electric guitar. I actually started with electric guitar, and for my 13th birthday, which is in November, um, I wanted to get a Gibson Les Paul copy,
Yeah.
electric guitar. That would be my birthday come Christmas present, because November and December are very close, and we always did that kind of thing. It would. But just prior to that, actually, a friend of ours who was playing in the local social club, a guitarist, had said to my dad, I'd played a couple of times on stage with these guys when I was very young, and he advised my dad to get me into the classical music, at least get some training, and get a good classical technique, and then take it from there. If I wanted to go onto electric, I could do, but getting the classical technique, would be a big benefit in my musical career.
And why the Northern College to study? Why did you decide to study in Manchester?
Well, I decided, as I say, they promised me I was going to get the electric guitar for my 13th, and I decided to cancel that, and I got a classical guitar instead. And as soon as I started classical guitar at the age of 13, I just fell in love, and that was it. And just over a year later, I gave my first solo concert, actually, in the Netherbow Theatre in Edinburgh. So then I just carried on with classical guitar. That was it. I just fell in love. And then when I came to the age of going to university or college, I basically researched, and my idol was of course the incredible guitarist, world-renowned John Williams, and I knew that he was giving master classes in the Royal Northern, and also Gordon Krosky was an incredible tutor.
Wow!
And and it was a very small group of guitarists that were taken into the. In fact, the year before I tried to get into the college, they didn't actually take any guitarists in at that year. So when I applied, they actually took in, I think, about 7 guitarists, which was the most. But I chose it because of John Williams and because of Gordon Krosky, and because of, it had an incredible reputation. I had other colleges on the list, the London Academy, the Royal Academy, and different colleges, but they came after the Royal Northern. And of course, when I went there and managed to get accepted for that, I tore up the list, and I knew that my first choice, I had achieved it, and that was it. The rest was history.
And do you think that classical guitar has given you the grounding to become a rock and pop artist? Do you find it is of great benefit?
Absolutely, because when it comes to, okay, you don't have to have that musical training, but in my career, as well as doing pop songs, I also do a lot of composing for television and for advertising, and so I'll do a lot of corporate projects as well as voiceover and things like that. So that's where it really came in handy for me, because of course, when you're composing for different companies or different corporate projects, you have to be very flexible. So it can be anything from rap music to pop music to symphonic scores. So the classical background and the classical training that I had, not only as composition, but also as a guitarist. So I could use a lot of my classical skills theoretically and practically with the guitar and piano, and because of course we had to study piano as well. So yes, it was a great benefit. It was and it helped us incredibly with our songwriting, and of course when you're using harmonies, like with Andy, we always harmonized our songs together. So it just made things so much easier, shall we say.
And what was it that took you then across to Europe in the first instance? Did you was there a gig? Was there something happened? I know you had become a duo then called the Graduates with Andy Claiborne. Did something happen that did you get an opportunity in Europe?
We were playing actually, Andy and I then around about 80, well, actually in 88, we were in the Hilton playing there. And then we were offered some jobs in the South, in Antalya and in the summer resorts of Turkey.
Okay.
So we went down there, and then funnily enough, in 1990, which was the following year after our first trip to Antalya, we were playing in a German club, mostly German tourists. And there were some producers who lived in Frankfurt and worked with Sony Music. So they listened to us, they heard us, and they said, "Oh, hey guys, you sound great. Do you have any of your own material?" And we played a few songs at the beach park.
Yeah.
We were playing like beach parties and things like that, acoustic night,
Okay.
acoustic sessions, just two guitars, two voices, campfire, everybody sitting around on the sand, drinking beers, having a good time. So
Sounds
we were singing.
brilliant.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was a great time. It was great for us because we had no stress. We were living in the top hotels. We had plenty of time to practice, write our songs, and perform them every single day. So when these guys heard us, they gave us, they said, we'd love to hear your own stuff, which we would play a lot of our own songs anyway during these concerts and shows and things. And they said, "Oh, we love it." So we gave them some recordings. They went to Germany, and a week later, that was it. We flew to Germany to meet Sony Music for a 4-year record contract. So they loved the stuff, and that was in 90, towards the end of 90. So we were off to Germany, and the next thing is we were signing a record deal with Sony Music.
And how did that feel, when you first knew that you were about to sign, with a record company? What goes through your head, Paul?
Well, I mean, that was it. I mean, we were still in our young, very early 20s, and Andy has this very, very good habit of writing things down constantly. And he wrote, I think we were then about in our very early 20s, and Andy had written, by 25, I'm going to be a millionaire now, because we're signing this record deal. And so we thought we were going to be millionaires. No, how old was I then? No, we were, that would have been, oh, I'm really giving my age away. Anyway, it was 19, it was around about 90 when we signed. We'd signed a deal actually when we were at college. We signed a deal with a very small subsidiary company to CBS, and they were called Spellbound Records, who were based in London. But we never did anything. We did a couple of demos and things like that, but nothing really took off. So when we signed this deal, we were now with, actually it wasn't Sony then, it was CBS, because it was just before CBS was bought by Sony Enterprises, So we actually signed with CBS, and we were released through Columbia Records. And the first album was in 91. That was it. We were in the studio, and we were banging out songs. The only thing that was disheartening for us is that the producers that we were working with were trying to push their own material onto us all the time, So we had this conflict where, we'd been signed on the pretenses that they liked our stuff, but yet they were constantly trying to force other songs that they'd written or co-written with other people. So from day one, we had this little bit of a clash, if you know what I mean. So.
Wow. And how do you deal with something like that? Do you talk to them? Is it something you can have a chat about?
God, we had a lot of fights in the studio in those days. And it was funny because, I was married the same year that we went to Germany and we were recording the album. I was just newly married. So my wife came with me, so she witnessed everything. She witnessed all the fights, and the next day we were all friendly again and in the studio recording. And then there'd be a fight when they tried to get us to do another song. And she experienced all that. But it was tough, but we were kids, so we got to the stage where we said, okay, look, let's, at least we're getting some of our songs on the album. So let's, and we really believed in Sony Music. They believed in us. So we thought this is going to be great. We'll get a bit more popular, and then we can start forcing a bit more our own material, So up until then it was like 50-50, 50-50 songs. And so we weren't happy with that.
How do you develop that resilience, Paul, when you're like, okay, this is the way it's going to be, and to progress this, we're going to have to give in to this? How does that happen to the young Paul Dwyer, who's full of energy and ideas and creativity, and is being kind of, I suppose, told to toe the line a little? How did you deal with that?
Well, again, I mean, although we were very, you know, we were young and kind of fresh. I mean, we had been in a record company before and
Yeah.
had to get out of that. So, you know, we were at the same time we were trying to be professional, as professional as we could.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and we just had to keep an open mind. And that was it, you know. I mean, okay, I mean, when I say we had fights, I must say that there were more better days. There were more fun days than bad days. So it wasn't
Yeah.
always to and fro. But, you know, when we decided, okay, we'll do this song and we'll do this song, then we just put it to the side and we did the best job that we could with those songs. You know, so it was we just had to plow on and be professional. And at least if we're doing that song, we should do it in our own style with our harmonies, and
Yeah.
that's the way we approached it. We just took okay, let's go with the flow. Well, let's get to where we want to be. Let's get the tours. Let's get rolling, get the fan base building and stuff, and then we can start pushing our own songs more and more. And actually, and funnily enough, they released a couple of songs. The very first single that we did wasn't our own song from the first album. It was a song called "Teach the Children," and then we did a remix of a song that was called "Without You." It was a song I'd written for my father, who passed away the following year. He passed away in '92, but I'd written this song for him, and it was a very slow version. And Andy and I decided to do like an up-tempo radio version of the song, and we really pushed that song. And the guys were saying, "No, it's no good." And so we did the song. We did it more of like an upbeat country style, and the record company loved it, and that was our first top 10 radio hit. So the first radio hit we had was when we forced our own song. You know, it was a really slow song, like a ballad, but like I say, we put this we put this groove underneath it, and it made it, and it became our first radio hit, basically. So it was kind of,
how did that
said, "Look,
feel?
we've been telling you guys all the time. Look, we've been telling you, just listen, you know." But,
How did that feel to hear it on the radio, Paul?
wonderful.
I mean, that must have been extraordinary. Yeah.
I mean, that's great. I mean, when you're that age and you start hearing the songs on the radio, or especially, you know, and then of course we were doing an awful lot of promotional concerts and radio things and television appearances, and so you know, and then you're in the taxi going to the next radio station, and of course, bang, your song comes on the radio, or sometimes it's playing a lot of our songs were also playing in the marketplaces and the shopping arcades and things like that, you know. So it's great. It's a great
and it must have been quite you know, a baptism of fire, because the stamina it would take to go on all these promotional tours. How did you keep up your energy? You know, do you stay fit? What do you do?
Well, I mean, Andy and I, we'd always, I mean, all the time we'd spent in the South. Like I say, we were spending in the, you know, 89, 90, even when we were going backwards and forwards to Germany, we were always spending a great deal of time in the south of Turkey, because that's how we were earning our steady money, I suppose, you know, and to finance our projects, our other projects and things. So we were always in the south, and of course we always had the sea. We were always windsurfing, and we were in the gym every day. You know, so I'm embarrassed when I see myself now. I think, goodness, what happened to me? You know, because then we were young and fit. You know, like I say, so we kept really fit. You know, we were very keen. Like, you know, keen to keep our daily sports routine intact. So yeah, that kept us going, you know. And plus we were young and we were just full of enthusiasm, so we didn't have time to sleep.
I know, you know, and part of doing these podcasts, Paul, is to try and bridge the gap between education and the industry. Mm-hmm. And we often ask our students at Lossy Entertainment Academy to get involved with the questions. And I have a question for you from one of our HND music students. So are you ready for this?
Okay. I am indeed.
This is a fantastic question. It says, was there ever a moment in your musical career where you had that feeling of, I have reached the peak of my powers? Or are you still searching and pushing to reach that peak? That comes from Jack. He's an incredible student and a phenomenal drummer, by the way.
Great. I'd love maybe if I come over there sometime, I'd like to have a jam session with Jack.
Without a doubt, Paul, he would be delighted.
Well, I mean, to answer that, that's a very nice question, you know, and I sincerely believe that we never stop progressing in our lives, you know, we never stop progressing, and we should never think that we've ever reached that peak point, because there's always something else to learn. You know, there's always new genres of music coming out. So yes, I mean, I mean, I'm still writing songs, and as they say, you're still trying to write that hit song. You know, I mean, we've had some great radio hit songs in the past, and okay, I would put it down to, there's so many things. There's the right time. You know, they say the right time, the right place, and that kind of thing. You know, but as far as reaching a peak, no, I mean, I still write. I still sometimes surprise myself when I come up with a new melody or a new chord progression or whatever. So no, I think that we're, as musicians and as composers, we should be open to the fact that we are constantly open to new ideas and new progress and ways to expand the way that we can compose our music. And I found that when I was now living in Turkey, of course. I mean, I then did television programs. I did a lot of documentaries about the Turkish music, because I wanted to expand not only the songwriting, but also the types of music and the types of rhythms, which they have a lot of complicated and different types of rhythms in Turkish music, as well as the actual beautiful instruments, the variety of instruments. So constantly learning from that and applying. That's what Andy and I really loved about Turkey, was to be able to apply the 7/8 and 9/8 rhythms, 5/8 rhythms, and cross, and then use. You know, we were using bağlama, which is a saz, a Turkish instrument, and Turkish percussion and wind instruments incorporated into our own music. So constantly developing, and I don't think that ever stops.
And listen to you talk, Paul. It's wonderful. It's like a sort of I don't know, it's a geographical music lesson. It's just fabulous. Where do you think your influences come from when it comes to your writing, and who you want to perform with now as well, because I know your YouTube channel has an extraordinary amount of followers on it, and you're always putting out these incredible pieces and displaying these wonderful partnerships, with very talented performers, and the scenery and the stories. Where are your influences now, do you think?
Well, certainly from a young age, we were influenced very much, like I gave the example before, we were very influenced by the Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel, and a lot of our songs, because two guitars, two voices, they were kind of in that area. But now I'm writing, I mean, my influences, let me think. I would, I mean, if you ask me what kind of music do I listen to, I mean, I try and listen to a variety of music. I listen to stuff from, the moody blues. I've done that for years, to Coldplay, to all kinds of, Billy Joel and some of the newer bands. So I'm trying to listen to different types of music, but I don't know. I don't try and follow any particular trend,
Yeah.
or try to be like a specific, a sound. I don't try and be like that sound, or, but yeah, I just try to take in as much as I can, and of course, being open to the richness of the music here in Turkey. That kind of helps me maintain that open mind, So, like you say, I just listen to different types of modern music, modern rock music, and I just, if I get a feel for a tempo, then I can maybe base an idea on a groove of a song, because I really like the groove of a Coldplay song, or I really like the groove of an Ed Sheeran song, or I love that tempo. So maybe I could be influenced by something like that. It makes me feel happy when something's in a certain tempo or has a certain groove. So those things can influence us, not necessarily copying the same chords or chord progression or anything, but the same kind of feeling that different types of music give us.
Yeah.
Those things are constantly, whether we like it or not. I mean, things like this also go into our subconscious mind when
Absolutely.
we try to listen. So, and they can also influence the way that when we start a song, we can find ourselves moving on to different directions. And so, yeah, I just try and keep an
And
open mind.
you know what I have found, because we've worked together recently, Paul,
Hmm.
and I've found working with you that you're always very upbeat. You're always very enthusiastic, almost um, you know spiritual in your love for life and
Hmm.
music and working with musicians. Have there ever been moments in your journey where you've thought, do you know what? I don't know if I can do this anymore. This is really hard. Have you ever thought about giving up?
I've never ever thought about giving up. We've had hard times, of course. Every musician goes through hard times. I think one of the toughest times was because I've been so used to being a duo. We were basically literally, we were playing every night together with Andy. So whether it was Germany or the America or the south of Turkey or whatever, the Abu Dhabi or whatever, it made no difference. We basically lived in the same hotel room, or we lived in the same caravan. We did everything together, So suddenly when it was in 90, and then we also went to the States. Andy and I were in America around about the end of 95, beginning of 96. And then we came back and we worked on a Turkish album, which was released in 97. And my daughter was born in 98. And Andy decided then he wanted to go back to America to
Right.
continue his own, songwriting, because he was very influenced in the American style and the Bob Dylan style and the different, the different vibes that we got in New York in 95, 96. He wanted to continue that. So he decided to go back to New York and so he wrote me this long letter, which I still have, and it was like, Paul, I guess it was almost like a farewell letter, and that broke
Wow.
me completely.
Wow.
That was in 98. It was just because he wanted to move and try new things in America. And I couldn't, because my daughter had just been born in 98,
Yeah.
and I had to stay, and I had to make foothold in Istanbul. And suddenly I was isolated. I was alone,
Wow.
and that was probably the toughest time. I didn't ever consider of giving up, but I couldn't go on stage for almost 2 years, you know, because I
Really?
just felt so like naked. I felt naked. I needed that support, I needed that support. I'm looking this way actually, because with Andy and I was always on the left. Andy was on the right. So I always, looking to the right and just having that presence always for the two of us, it was something that because I grew up with that, and suddenly I was alone. And
Yeah.
I suddenly thought, gosh, and also because of the material that we were doing, half of the songs I was doing harmonies with, and Andy was singing the lead parts and stuff. So I was struggling to think, God, how could I possibly do a solo program? And then eventually, but what I had to do then is I had to think more of the backstage side of things. Now I had a child, and so I decided that I would go more into the music production, since
Okay.
I didn't really have the nerve to go on stage. So I thought, okay. So I started to think about setting up a production company, and that's basically what was the start of that. And then, of course, then I started to research more about business and management, and I had no idea about business and management and running a company and promoting a company and writing and scouting for agencies and work, and it was a nightmare. But I had to force myself to do that, because music was my life, and music was the only thing that I really felt I could be happy with, and at least achieve something with, and
And
that's what I did. So I set off with my company, and then of course I started to, and then Andy wasn't away for long anyway. It was just a big, he just scared me with his letters. He was back, and then we were back on stage, and we were doing things again. But gosh, that was a tough 2 years, I must admit.
and where do you think the belief came from to keep going then at that time? Where you're saying you turned to production,
Yeah.
where does that come from, that kind of resilience?
Well, I think it basically was, one of the first things was necessity, really. I mean, I had to survive.
Yeah.
I'd up until then, everything I was doing, it was with Andy. So
Yeah.
it was concerts, it was gigging. We were going to the south. We were doing, every single time I was on stage, it was Andy and I. So that's why suddenly I felt, oh gosh, I can't go on stage. I just felt, I couldn't do it. I didn't have the nerve to do it. So it was a necessity. I mean, I had to do something. So I started to research, and I'd actually, prior to that, I'd done a lot of radio jingles with Andy. We used to do a lot of radio jingles for one of the big radio stations here. So we were doing like, you know, little acoustic songs and writing lyrics and, you know, announcements and DJ announcements and things like that. So I thought, that's one thing I'm going to go back into. And I was doing also a lot of voiceover work for the radio, but I'd never done it in a professional way, you know, as a way of thinking of earning money. So I started to look into that area, you know, which was going into jingles, going and meeting advertising companies, and then of course doing voiceover work, because I had to do something. I had to find work. I had a child then, and I hadn't worked for over a year. I hadn't worked. I mean, we're basically living on my wife's salary, you know, for almost 2 years. I was just reading about business and how to get into the jingle business and scoring and things like that. And again, that's where the classical music really came back into it. You know,
Of course.
So all that career and pop music and stuff, I was suddenly I was back to writing classical music for corporate.
Wow.
And so it was great, you know. So that's, I mean, having the faith in knowing that whatever I put my mind to, whether it was writing jingles or whether it was writing, you know, corporate music, corporate identity music, I knew that I had the tools to do it. It was just that I had to focus on it. You know, I needed to read a bit more. And of course, when you start writing jingles, it's like a mini pop song. You know, a pop song is 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes long. A jingle, you've got 15, sometimes 30 seconds, and you've got to hit the nail on the head, you know? So it was condensing all that things and getting the hook, being able to get that hook into the jingle. And so that was a great training ground for me as well, you know, to write little mini hit songs, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, that really, you know, hits that pack shot, you know. So that was a great learning experience for me. And it was so necessity and real wanting to break into different avenues of music.
And having so many skills that are transferable across the business, do you think that's something that you would advise for any up and coming musician nowadays?
Absolutely. I mean, I think with music, especially in these days, I mean, we only have to look at you know, at the social media platforms, the applications we have, and in particular, the gaming. You know, the gaming market is now a huge market. I mean, we didn't have anything like that in our day. So now, I mean, some of the games I was listening to some of the music is absolutely incredible. It's, you know, you have beautiful symphonic arrangements. You have so every genre of music. So a musician who may be interested in only hip hop music, that's also great, because that kind of music is also required for, you know, jingles or commercial music, or music that may be needed for particular applications or particular video games, you know. So I think once you get into music, you know, there are now, I believe that there are much more corridors that you can go down. I mean, in the old days, it was you out there, you know, you do your records, you would make the money from selling records, and you would do your gigs. And that was it, really, that was about it.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, so, you know, unless you, and then you can break into the soap opera kind of thing. I mean, I did a lot of that music here as well, where I was writing for soaps and things. So, you know, again, it's more towards the instrumental, and that's again where the classical thing broke into. So any musician, I would give that word of advice, you know, don't, even though you may be restricted to a particular type of music that you're doing, try to expand that. But I'm sure that even the music that you're doing, do it with your heart, and you will find a niche for that music. You know, you will find the niche for it, whether it's, like I say, commercial market or video games or whatever. It's out there. You just have to focus and believe that you're going to achieve that.
And that's something that comes across from you, Paul. It really is incredibly inspiring. And do you know what, I'm listening to you here, and I'm so glad that we're actually involved in a documentary series at the moment, because
it's fabulous, as they would say.
Boom boom. I set that one up for you though, darling. I set that up. But you know, your enthusiasm for your craft is utterly infectious. And you know, listening to you, staying grounded yet bubbling over with enthusiasm for music. You have, to this point, had the most incredible, diverse career. And I do think that for people watching this, it will be quite something for them to realize the amount you have achieved and how you've achieved that. And I would imagine for you to look back on that, and if you and I were actually in the same country, which, we might be one day, if we were in the same country and we were to look back over your achievements, if we were climbing a hill and we'd sort of look back and I said to you, do you know what, Paul, what would you see there that was fabulous? What would be the defining kind of fabulous thing for you about your career, Paul?
Oh, wow, that's a hard one. Because this the real thing I wanted the thing I really want to do now is to be on stage like we did with Andy. I mean, we did the times in Sony Music were great because we had the opportunity there to play. I think one of the biggest concerts where we played, it was a summer festival, and there were a lot of groups playing on the same venue, but there were like 40,000 people, out there, and we were just playing with two guitars, two vocals, and we only had to do two songs, But it was, those things are great, those are the highlights in our lives when you really reach out to so many people. So I want to do that again. I always wanted to be a world musician, and now because of social media, I suppose I can say I am. I have people following me from all around the world, which is a marvelous thing, and that's the power again of the media. But still, there's still things I want to be upstage. I want to be on stage before I get really too old, and play on those massive venues again. Playing my own music again. So yeah, I still have to reach a lot of peaks still that I feel I haven't achieved. Although there was a period in my life where I looked and I was a bit depressed because I didn't think I'd achieved anything, because I was, really, I went through a period, Tish, where and it wasn't that long ago actually, where I felt really disheartened because I don't, I live in a rented house. I don't have my own house in Istanbul. My car is not even in my name. So I was looking at the negative things, like I don't have my house. There's so many things I want for my kids, or I want to be able to take them on holiday. I want to be able to go on a skiing holiday in the winter. I can't do those kind of things, because I'm either working or tied down and stuff, working for my family and working for my career. So one has to make a lot of sacrifices in your life, but and I believe that I hadn't achieved a lot of things until somebody pointed it out to me, and we looked back, and then I began to see that I really, I really I've had a great life, so far, and I hope it continues and peaks. But everything from playing thousands of people's concerts and TV shows. I've traveled, all around Turkey. I did 120 documentaries about the Turkish folk music, and so I've learned so much, and I've played with some incredible musicians. I've been on some incredible stages with other musicians. So I don't know. When I think about all that, it's all wonderful. It's been a wonderful experience. We've had the downs as well. I think we had a great tour in Germany. That was kind of the end of the deal with Sony Music. That was a fantastic tour because we did about 26 concerts in a month. So we were playing in just about every major city. That was about 94, I think it was. Yeah. And so, that was fantastic because it was coming to the peak. We'd released our second album, and we were doing tours. We were playing almost every night. We were in Berlin. We were playing with Susan Vega. We were the warm-up band for a lot of few Susan Vega concerts. So we had great crowds. And it's just wonderful to be out there playing your own music, you know, and people, because we had some great, of course we had some great radio hits in Germany at the time. So it was nice to see people singing your songs. So all the people
Yeah.
in the world, you know, so they are great, great things. And also the fact that I have a wonderful wife and I've got 2 great kids. That's one of the greatest things that's also happened to me. I'm so
I
fortunate
think,
to have that as well, you know.
and I think without a doubt, Paul, there's, if anybody's going to be, you know, returning to that gigantic stage, it will be you. There's no doubt in my mind that that is going to be you. You know, you are hugely informed and incredibly inspiring, and I'm so excited to be part a little bit of your journey going forward. And you know, I truly hope that when I'm on the guest list for, you know, your big gigs, that
You'll be on stage with us.
that
You'll be
you
the
take
guest
a moment.
artist, Tish.
Well, that's really kind of you. I'm going to hold you to that.
Oh,
But you
don't
know what?
worry.
Do you know what's really good, Paul, about you is that you know it's Paul Dwyer. You know, you hear his music, you know it's him. You see his cheeky face, you know it's him, and that's why you will be right back up there. And you know, Paul, I can't believe that you said yes to coming on the show, and I want to thank you so much because this really has been a remarkable experience. And you know, from one musician to another, Paul, I want to thank you very much. You are without a doubt living the most fabulous life. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much indeed.